Right, so it's time to test. I should have done this test last weekend, but the week before that I'd been poorly, so I just wanted to get a clear week of easy-ish training just to make sure everything's working okay. And I'm not going to say too much because I just want to get on with the test. Zach's going to come and help me take the bloods this time, just to make life a little bit more straightforward. Standard lactate test, if you want to know how it's kind of all fits together, I did the previous one here, and I'll put the previous numbers on the screen now as to where LT1 and LT2 were. Fingers crossed, hopefully those numbers will have gone up, i.e. the watts for LT1 and LT2 will be higher. I'll be able to stay below lactate threshold 1 and lactate threshold 2 for longer, essentially, or a higher intensity. But we'll see, because training was perfect, and then it wasn't for a week, and then I've sort of managed to get a bit more training in. So I don't feel particularly tired, although I've done a bit of running. I don't feel mega fueled either, but that was the whole plan last time, to do it pretty much the same conditions as this time. We'll see how we get on. I'll get a time lapse and maybe a little bit of footage as we're going along, but for now, just need to get on here and get going. Okay folks, it's ramp test time. So I did a lactate test a couple of days ago, stopped one stage really after 4 millimoles, mainly to save on test strips because they're so damn expensive, and I wasn't really after my FTP in that session so much as my LT1 and LT2, which I got, and we'll talk about the results of all the things that I've been testing over the last couple of days. Lactate, blood pressure, glucose, weight, and then the final part of the jigsaw puzzle really is FTP test. And the last time I did it, I worked it out off of the 1 minute ramp test, which is, you know, negligibly accurate, but consistency is the most important thing here. So we'll do the same thing again, same time of day, same kind of non-fasted effort, and just 1 minute ramps. So we'll see how we get on. Come on. Fuck. Whoa, okay, that really hurt. That did definitely hurt. I had to really dig in very, very deep to rinse out everything I could. And I guess to some extent it kind of highlights the flaws really of an FTP test in general, particularly a ramp test, that, you know, over the last 6-7 weeks training, I kind of learnt to go a bit deeper and to really suffer a little bit more through the training, and what that feels like, and my body's used to it. And I guess that's one of the many flaws of it really, but it's definitely better than the last time. I tried to have a quick look to see where I'd got to in the last test. I couldn't find it on my phone, but definitely higher than the last time. We'll see what it says when I get all the numbers together, which will be now.
Now we're going to have a look at my numbers. We're going to look at fasted blood glucose, we're going to look at blood pressure, weight, CTL, LT1, LT2, ramp test FTP numbers, and then finally watts per kilo from the 6th of February to the 26th of March, so over about a 7-week period. So we'll see if there's much in the way of change, and if there is, we'll have a look at how I've gone about that. So we'll break it down, how things have changed, how I went about doing it, what I plan to do with that knowledge. So let's start off with fasted blood glucose. On the 6th of February, it was 5.6 millimoles. So 5.6 millimoles sits in the range of pre-diabetes. Now that's obviously concerning. I keep doing this fluctuation game with pre-diabetic levels, and it's something I definitely want to make sure I get under control. And when I tested on the 26th of March, a couple of days ago, we're looking at 5.1 millimoles. That's a drop of 0.5 millimoles. Now, it doesn't sound like a huge amount, 0.5 millimoles, but it takes me below that threshold of it being pre-diabetic. Pre-diabetic is anything above 5.4. So obviously 5.6 I was above, 5.1 I'm actually quite a few points below. I would still like to drop that lower, but it's great news to know that I've managed to drop that lower than it was 7 weeks ago. Blood pressure on the 6th of February was 123/83. When I took it a couple of days ago, it was 127/80. So actually, not much change, if a little higher. Now, the systolic number, which is the first one, is up a few points, and the diastolic number was, the second number is a little bit lower. I'll be completely frank and honest with you, things are super stressful at work. I'm not surprised my blood pressure is a little bit elevated. It is only just in the elevated range. It's not in the high blood pressure range, which is a big relief. I would have liked it to have been in the normal zone. But yeah, things are super stressful, as they are for a lot of people at work, where job security is a bit tricky, businesses going through kind of reorganisation, strategy changes and stuff. It is a little bit stressful. So I would like to get my blood pressure down a little bit further and get it back into the normal zone. When it comes to weight, great change here. So 6th of February, I was 106.2 kilos. And when I weighed myself a couple of days ago, I was 98.5. So that's actually a drop of 7.7 kilos, or over a stone actually, a stone and a bit in old money. So yeah, 7.7 kilos. Now, I'll go on to how I've done all these things in a bit, but I'm really happy with that. It's not a dramatic loss. Since the beginning of the year, I've lost about 10 kilos. But 7.7 of those have been in the last 7 weeks. If you think about that, roughly, it's about 1 kilo a week, or just over 1 kilo a week, which is around about 2 pounds, which is what they say is healthy weight. That's what I want to do. I don't want to do these big jumps anymore. I want to make sure that what I'm losing, I keep losing, and I lose it, and I lose it for good. Because this isn't about training. This isn't about looking good. This is about living a healthy life for as long as I possibly can. Okay, CTL levels. So this is the chronic training load that you get in Training Peaks, where it combines all of your power and your heart rate and your sleep and everything else, combines it all together, and gives you essentially a fitness number. Now, on the 6th of February, that was 65, a CTL of 65. A couple of days ago, it was 93. So that's a big elevation, 28 points higher than it was before. Now, obviously, that's a big relief. I'm not surprised, and as you see from the graph that I'll put on the screen now, it's been steadily rising, which is what we want. Obviously, you've got to play the game of making sure you recover from those things, and that's something that I need to take into account. You can't have this constant kind of rise. It needs to kind of fluctuate a little bit, but I'm super happy with that, as am I about my LT1 and LT2 watts. So LT1 and LT2 on the 6th of February were 175 watts and 230 watts respectively, which, you know, it is what it is. When I tested with Zach a couple of days ago, a few days ago now, LT1 was at 196 watts and LT2 is at 240 watts. So that's a good jump. Now, interestingly enough, as we'll see with the training that I've been doing, most of my training has been commuting around about zone 2, and we can see that really where zone 2, LT1 kind of level is, that's increased by 23 watts, but I haven't done as much high intensity work on the turbo. I haven't been doing so much sweet spot or under overtraining as I'd really would have liked to have done. And I think we can see that whilst I've gained 23 watts on LT1, so that kind of base level, when it gets into higher intensity, that point where it goes over the threshold of 2, where I'm accumulating too much lactate or hydrogen ions to be able to process it anymore, and that's only gone up by 10 watts, but it has gone up by 10 watts, and that's the most important thing. So that's raised, that's what I'm after. Now, interestingly enough, when I did the ramp test last time, 6-7 weeks ago, I did it to see whether there was a correlation between LT2 and what it told me my ramp test FTP was. And there was. It was a little bit higher, 10-15 watts higher than what LT2 was, but, you know, close enough for jazz. Now, interestingly enough, I did the ramp test recently, and it's elevated. It's gone from 247 watts to 258 watts, which is great news. But interestingly enough, it's gone up by 11 watts, which is exactly the same amount, give or take 1 watt, as my LT2 increase. So LT1, LT2, LT1 and LT2 here in 2 different weeks, and LT2 has raised the same amount as my FTP does. 2 independent tests, almost exactly the same increase. Now, if that doesn't give me some kind of indication that there's a definite factor there, great. Whether the numbers are accurate or not, there's so many variables, who knows? But I basically managed to do 2 similar tests that have given me the same result, an increase essentially of 10 watts at the upper end, which is great news. Now, combining the increase of wattage by 11 watts for my FTP with my loss of weight, which is great. Normally when you lose weight, you lose a bit of power. I've actually gained weight and lost weight and gained power. I've gone from a admittedly pathetic 2.3 watts per kilo on the 6th of February to a slightly less pathetic 2.8 watts per kilo, which is a nice little increase, I think. A 0.5 watt increase is fine. If I can do that again, I'll be at 3.2 watts. And if I can do that again, I'll be 3.7 watts. So I think that's the plan. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do another 6-week test on this, but focusing on the upper end, and see in 6 weeks' time if we can make more of a difference to that LT2 number. Maybe try and get that up more than 10 watts. Obviously, as you get up, it becomes exponential, doesn't it? It's not so easy to keep gaining those watts, but hopefully, rather than it being 23 watts at LT1 and 10 watts at LT2, what I'm hoping is they might be a little bit closer, because I'm going to focus in on doing some higher end work, some more intensity work, which is great. It means my base level is improving between 175 watts. It's gone up to 196 watts. So, quick little mention, video I put out last week. Ian Bellis mentioned that I don't have much of a notebook game going on. I was using pathetic bits of paper in one of the videos. I did all the workings out of these in a notebook that he very, very kindly sent, which was a lovely thing to do. All my numbers are in there. This is now going to be my notebook for taking notes to do with my training and stuff, and this is going to be my notebook for writing song lyrics and video ideas. So massive thanks, Ian. I think you'll agree I've got my notebook game up together. Right, let's have a look at how I got there. There are 3 main factors that got the results that I'm really chuffed with over the last 7 weeks, to be honest with you. Despite being ill and barely training for almost an entire week, I've made some really good gains, and it's hugely motivating and very, very satisfying. I feel so much better. I can see the weight coming off of my face. My sleep's improving since being poorly as well. It's all coming back together, and I'm enjoying eating properly, and essentially I'm not filling myself with complete crap. As a result of that, I don't feel quite so crap. So how did I go about this? Well, there are 3 main factors. The first one, as those of you who watch the channel know, I stopped drinking any alcohol on the 1st of January, which is, for me, easier said than done. I think today is the 89th day or something of not drinking. Have I missed it? It's a big part of my life before. So in short, no, actually, I haven't. There's been a couple of occasions where I would have liked to have had a drink in the evening or something, but I think it's going to be tougher as we get into the summer months. But however, in terms of the results that I've got, that's got to be a big factor in the weight coming down, but also having the energy and the wherewithal to do the training, to be commuting, to go out and do all these things, because I'm not getting hammered all the time. So that's the first thing, not drinking alcohol. Second thing related, I suppose, to some extent, is the fasted stuff. Now, the intermittent fasting element is a big part of it, 16/8 fasting. However, I have had to have some days where when I've been training and I've been putting in some big hours, some big distances, I've had to scrap that, and that's absolutely fine. I've got to listen to my body. I can't put myself in a hole. However, the fasted rides into work are fantastic. They make a huge difference. Not only will it help me burn, oxidize the fat and burn the fat off, it will also increase my ability to burn fat, which means I'll be more efficient. I won't be burning carbs lower down in the intensity. It'll take longer for me to get into that point of burning carbs, which means I can store more carbs or save more carbs, whichever way you want to look at it. So that's the second thing, is the intermittent fasting has helped massively. Although I haven't been an absolute monk to that, it has been something that I've listened to my body on. The third thing has been consistent, focused, dedicated training. As I said 7 weeks ago, the focus is going to be entirely on running and entirely on cycling. I have commuted pretty much every single day to work. I have completed the Couch to 5K. I have enjoyed both. Couch to 5K, I had a few weeks where I had to drop a few runs and stuff. However, went out and ran a 5K, 27.5 minutes or something. Fastest 5K I've run in many years, and I'm really enjoying the running. I'm going to go out for a run when I finish making this video. So let's look at the hours and the distances that I travelled. So the distances are going to be a combination of running or cycling, because that's the only way it comes up in Training Peaks, and as will the hours training. So I'll put them on the screen down here so you can see in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did essentially the lowest was 3 hours 20. That was the week I was poorly. The most hours was 14 hours in week 4 when I had a big block of training, and the biggest distance was also in week 4, 299 kilometres. And in week 6, when I wasn't very well, I only did 62 kilometres, some bike riding, some running. But essentially, across the entire 7-week period, the average time I spent training was just over 9 hours, and the average distance I travelled by bike or by running was just shy of 200 kilometres, 195 kilometres a week. And that's been the biggest difference. It's been committed and consistent training, and that is where all of these gains have really come from. So moving on to what I'm going to do next. Well, as I previously mentioned, I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to stay with another 6-week cycle. I'm going to see how much gain I can make in the next 6 weeks. It'll be way past the end of term, I think, when we finish this next 6-week block. I've got 2 weeks of spring break or Easter, then 3 weeks of term, and then we'll be into our exam period. But that week I'm going to Treowen, where we've been before, where we got married. My brother-in-law's getting married over there in Monmouth, so I'm going to use that as my marker. I'm going to use that as my training marker to try and see how I get to either before or after. I haven't quite worked out the logistics, whether I do the tests before or after we come back from being away in Wales. However, that's where we're at. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sitting through all these numbers. From my own perspective, I am super chuffed with where I've got to in the last 6 weeks. Even the blip of being poorly for a week didn't throw me, and I'm feeling really positive about how I'm doing at the minute, which is the most important thing. I'm doing it all for the right reasons at the minute, and that's what I've got to continue to be. So thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video, and until the next video, make sure you take good care of yourselves.